Hey, I'd like to know if you had an experience that I certainly had as a young person falling in love with movies and learning about movie history, and an experience that I've heard lots of other people talk about having where you saw a list of the greatest films of all time. And more often than not, the movie that was at the top of that list was Citizen Kane. And you were like, oh, okay, that must be the best movie ever. I will go and watch it. And you watched it, and you being a dumb 14 or 15-year-old, you were like, I don't get it. I don't get it. I want to know if that happened to you. It certainly happened to me. And I will tell the tale now. Lists of the greatest movies of all time. You know, we all know them. We all love them, or at least I love them. I like lists. My brain works and categorizes things. I just like having sort of order and structure. Helps me understand the world. Caveat: art is subjective. Making lists of movies is a dumb thing to do. There's no consistent criteria or even process for how you evaluate how one movie ranks above another movie. How is this movie really 3 movies better than that movie? Like, yeah, we all know that. But again, I love lists. I always have. But I'm not someone who keeps a running list of my top 100 movies in my head, or even like my top 10 movies. And I'm not even someone who has a clearly articulated position on the difference between what I mean when I say the best movie and what I mean when I say my favorite movie. Usually I kind of just collapse the two in my head. If I think something is the best, I also think something is my favorite. I use them interchangeably, but I'm not entirely consistent on this. Sometimes I will say, yeah, that's the best, but my favorite is this. But we'll get more into that. Every once in a while, an entertainment outlet will decide to put together a list of the all-time best movies, or the all-time best albums, or the all-time best TV shows, or the all-time, best movies in a genre, best horror movies, best comedies, whatever. We understand why they do this. It drives attention, it drives clicks, and the lists are generally often deliberately engineered, designed to spark some outrage among the people who read them, and they can share the outrage with their peers on social media and be like, can you believe they said this? They said this is the greatest horror movie of all time. That's the point. That you're supposed to get a little annoyed, and that just drives more attention and clicks. But I want to take you back to a pre-internet age, to 1998. The American Film Institute issued its list of the 100 greatest American movies of all time, but it didn't just issue a list. It put a full court press marketing campaign, marketing blitz to accompany this project, the greatest American films of all time. And I think that this list lingered in the public consciousness for a long time at the time. And of course, it might just be my memory because this happened when I was aware of it. But I mean, I think a large part of it is that the American Film Institute, AFI, got a primetime television special on CBS, a 3-hour primetime special at a time when people still watch TV. And not only did they get this primetime 3-hour special, they also got a 10-part miniseries on TNT to go way even more in depth, hosted by a cavalcade of movie stars. And then if you went to Barnes & Noble, you'd see, on the discount tables, you'd see AFI books. So this was everywhere. They were making a really big deal about this list. And so I ingested this list a few years after it came out. The year was 2003. Maybe that's why I said the discount books. So I could go to Barnes & Noble and be like, ooh, a book that says the 100 greatest movies of all time, and it's only $5. I was 15 years old. I received this list like I was receiving Moses bringing me the 10 Commandments. Like the 10 Commandments, as we shall find, this is a bad list, but that's not the point right now. I took this list so seriously. I memorized it. Seriously, I memorized it. I would go to class and be a little circus freak and tell people in class, like hand them the list and be like, here, I'm not looking, say a number on the list. And they'd be like 47. I'd be like 47, Taxi Driver. Like they could say a number on the list and I could tell them what number movie was on the list. And sometimes if I am struggling to sleep, I will try to remember. I will try to say the list in order in my head because that's what kind of circus freak I still am. Lots of issues, though, with this list now that I look back on it, how many years later is this? 22? It's 2025. Yeah, 22 years later after my obsession with this list. A couple of issues. The most glaring, of course, is that this list was decades before Jason Statham's The Beekeeper came out, so the list is incomplete. But more than that, Going over this list, I haven't actually looked at this list in a long time, but I'm looking at it now and I'm thinking it's not so much that there are so many bad movies on the list. I was kind of surprised by that. There are fewer bad movies on this list than I remembered. There are some glaringly like weird selections, like they really liked a bunch of recent Best Picture winners like Dances with Wolves and Forrest Gump. But for the most part, most of the movies are at least good. You'd say these are good. But there are also movies that would fall into not so much the good or great category as just important. This is an important movie. And I'm thinking here of The Jazz Singer. This was a 1927 movie. It is mostly a silent movie, but it has a few sequences of synchronized sound. And this is usually the movie people point to as the first sound picture, the first talkie. But this movie sucks. So at the time when I was 15, I decided I'm going to see every movie on this list. I set out to do that. The Jazz Singer was the last movie I ended up watching because I just couldn't find it anywhere. I had to go onto the scary internet, go to Amazon.com and order The Jazz Singer on VHS. And I watched it and I was like, that's the 80th best movie ever made. Whatever. Another important movie that's a little strange in retrospect is D.W. Griffith's silent movie Birth of a Nation from 1915. Absolutely one of the most important movies ever made because it helped cement filmmaking language all the way back in 1915. But its plot is about how these heroic Ku Klux Klan members save a white lady from some scary black men who just got freed by that dastardly evil Union Army. It's racist as hell. And this wasn't something we know now in retrospect. At the time, people were like, this movie's racist as hell. 10 years after this American Film Institute list came out, the AFI revised their list. They issued a 10 years later list. They seem to recognize probably not a great look to put Birth of a Nation on the list. So they replaced it with D.W. Griffith's next movie, Intolerance. And funnily enough, Intolerance was a movie that Griffith made in response to all the people in 1915 calling him racist. So this thing happens 100 years ago, 100 years later, the AFI basically does the same thing. But yeah, so I hear this list, I look at this list, I print it out from the computer, and I very diligently go and watch the movies and then cross them out in Sharpie when I finish seeing them. At the time, a lot of these movies were not available on DVD. DVD was booming at the time, but the back catalog of DVDs was kind of lagging. Over the next couple of years, these old movies would all come out on DVD, and I would spend my entire paycheck from my high school job working at a family fun center. I would just go immediately to Circuit City or to Best Buy and buy all the new DVDs of all the classic movies that came out. That is why how I built the movie wall that you're looking at behind me. It's just lots of 30s, 40s, and 50s movies that came out on DVD. But mainly the way I saw these movies was I would go to the library and rent them, check them out on VHS. The very first day that I saw this list, I should actually say I didn't see the list. A substitute teacher in my speech class had a recorded VHS from TV of the TV special, and we watched like the top 20 movies ever made, and no one in class was paying attention, but I was like, oh my God, wow. And I wrote it down. And so the number 2 movie on the list, Casablanca, I went to the library and I checked out and I watched, and I was like, oh, that's a good movie. And that's also where all those movie lines come from. That's where all those references on The Simpsons and everything come from. And so I would do that. I would go to the library. I'd get movies like Some Like It Hot on VHS, or, the 2 tape sets like Dr. Zhivago, too long to fit on a single VHS tape. I would watch these movies, often not understand them at all. Like in a case like Dr. Zhivago, not even understand there was a Russian Revolution. Don't know what that means. The movie would end. I'd be like, yeah, okay. And then cross it off my list. Over the course of a calendar year, 2003, I watched every movie on the list. And I guess something to say in favor of this list that I'm largely making fun of is that it ultimately did nurture a curiosity about movies and movie history in me, but it took a while. And I was just kind of pursuing it as a goal in and of itself. But I eventually started to be like, I like this actor from the 40s. Maybe I'll watch other movies that this actor did, or other movies that this Alfred Hitchcock fellow directed. Maybe they're worth seeing, even if they aren't on the American Film Institute's top 100 movies list. But the list itself, again, leaves a lot to be desired. The first thing you'll notice, hopefully, is how white and male it is. Not a single movie on the list, I don't think, is directed by a woman or by a person who isn't a white man. And it's not that this would have made it any less egregious, but it really is surprising that in 1998 somebody didn't say, hey, maybe we should put at least one movie directed by a woman, or at least one movie directed by a black man, a black person on this list. In fact, I know this list so well, I can predict to you what they would have done. I think they would have put Jane Campion's The Piano on the list, and I think they would have put John Singleton's Boys in the Hood on the list in 1998. There's no way you can disprove me. This is a list of only English language movies. So my early movie education had no exposure to foreign cinema, and to this day, I have seen fewer classics of world cinema than I would like. And then weirdly, even though it's by definition supposed to only be American movies, there are a lot of British movies on this list. And I finally went and looked up the AFI's website to see, do they explain why this is? And they do. They say, if a movie had a, quote, substantial, unquote, portion of its funding coming from American companies, then it qualifies. Okay. Most of these movies are old. They're from the 30s, 40s, and 50s. And, you know, that's great. That made me love old movies. Old movies are great. If you don't like watching old movies, I think that you need to work on that. I mean, it's like whenever I hear somebody say that they don't like a genre, like I'd find that if you said, I don't like comedies, like I'd be like, well, that's weird. Or I don't like action movies, or I don't like Westerns. It's like all movies are like, they're either good or they're bad, or they're great, or they're everything in between. It's not the genre or the era that defines them. But that said, there isn't much representation on this list from the 70s and 80s, weirdly, which is my favorite period of film, I think. And there's also a woeful lack of what we would call genre films. There's horror, sci-fi, action, fantasy, like martial arts, like none of that. I mean, or very little of that is on this list. This list is mostly like prestige historical epics. There's only 2 animated movies on this list, Snow White and Fantasia, and that's an obscenely low number. And there's only 4 silent movies, but 3 of those silent movies are Charlie Chaplin movies, and I think that's just overkill. They also released their list of 400 movies that qualified to be considered on this top 100 movies list, and I eventually made my way through that as well. But AFI never released like any information on who the voters were or like what the vote totals were. There's not any information on how this was actually decided. And like, I can't find any data on like who was on their board of directors or board of trustees, what they call it at the time. But Steven Spielberg is still on their board of trustees. He's been involved with them since the 1970s, and he has 5 movies on the list. So draw your own conclusion. The defense of all of this would be like, the point of this is just to stimulate conversation and interest and curiosity and love of pictures, which like, I guess it worked. It worked on me at least, but I think a better way to do all of this is just for you to make friends with other movie people and develop a canon of your own. Develop a 100 greatest movies of you and your friends. That's a better way. But for antisocial kids like me, this list is what I had to work with. And so I'm going to conclude here by going through AFI's top 10 movies, the top 10 that they came up with in 1998. And we're going to make our determination on what we think of these movies. And I want to hear what you think. So number 1 is Citizen Kane. And I have the very boring opinion that, yeah, gun to my head, Citizen Kane is the best movie ever made for whatever that's worth, whatever that means. I started this by saying I went and saw Citizen Kane at age 15 and didn't understand it. I am glad that I was at least curious enough to like keep watching it. And then it revealed its magic to me. But yeah, Citizen Kane would probably get my vote, my boring vote for greatest movie ever made. Number 2, Casablanca. Yeah, also great. And this is a nice little 1-2 punch. You get first the best example of a director, completely like director as auteur driven movie made in Citizen Kane. And then Casablanca, the ultimate like Hollywood assembly line production style of the way they used to make 50 movies per year at a studio. And Casablanca was just one of the 50s, but they just accidentally made one of the best movies ever made. So yeah, I would definitely keep both of these two in a top 10. The Godfather. I love The Godfather. It certainly seems like it belongs in one of the most iconic American movies of all time. But then I'm like, yeah, it's probably my 4th favorite Francis Ford Coppola movie. So I don't know. Godfather probably in my top 100, but not in my top 10. Okay, number 4, Gone with the Wind. Ooh, tug at my collar. This is uncomfortable. Gone with the Wind, the most popular American movie ever made. If you adjust for inflation, still the most tickets, like most money ever earned at the box office, most tickets sold. And totally a racist movie and a bit of neo-Confederate propaganda, very harmful and in sort of insidious ways that I don't think even people who watch the movie and enjoy the movie necessarily even recognize. But it is a good time. It is a fun movie. Even all of that being said, I kind of think the first half of this movie is way better than the second half. It's a 4-hour movie, and I think 2.5 hours of it are a lot of fun and are so impressive with what they were able to do in 1939. All of this to say, no, I would not put this in my top 10 list. I would not put this in my top 100 list, Gone with the Wind. Lawrence of Arabia, yeah, I would definitely... This is the movie that I think they're talking about with Gone with the Wind. Also a racist movie, also a bit of jingoist Western propaganda, Anglo propaganda rather than American propaganda. But again, a testament to the power of cinema. And so I would say, yeah, you have to keep Lawrence of Arabia in the top 10. The Wizard of Oz. Yeah, I'd be hard pressed to argue that shouldn't be in the top 10. Man, I'm like, did they nail this list? That's crazy. 5 of the first 6 movies, I'd say yes, I don't veto. The Graduate, number 7. Okay, here I would say veto. Yeah, The Graduate's a lot of fun, but no, it's not the 7th best movie ever made. On the Waterfront, Elia Kazan's movie where he argues that actually it's good to rat on your friends like he did with all of his communist writer friends. No, I would not put On the Waterfront in my top 10 movies. I do owe it a rewatch, though. I mean, Marlon Brando, there's fewer better screen performances. Steven Spielberg's Schindler's List comes in at number 9. So this list was made in 1998. It is pretty audacious to say in 1998 that the 9th best movie ever made came out only 5 years ago and was made by a person who's a big supporter of this whole endeavor. Yeah, Schindler's List, a great movie by Steven Spielberg. I don't think it's his best movie, but I think it's a towering achievement, but I would not put it in my top 10 list. And finally, Singin' in the Rain, probably the best musical ever made. I'm going to keep it. So what do we got? We got 6 of the 10 movies. Wait, 1, 3, 4. Yeah, 5 of their 10 movies I would keep in my own personal top 10. Not bad. Okay, let me know what you think of all of this. I don't know. Thank you. Goodbye.